Hi, welcome back to our second segment of Cambridge Inside Out, post-election analysis. Our wonderful mathematician here, and we're gonna look more now at what we're we looking at. We're gonna look at more specifics here, like where
some of the particular, who the winners were and whatnot. So let me just sort of make sure we'll do that. We'll talk about some other little things here as well, but. So let's just talk about the results, okay? Again, many people in Cambridge already heard the results, and there are lots of different ways of showing them. The initial demonstration, if you go to the city website, just show these full page things. We can show you those if you want.
It's also on your website.
Yeah, I have it posted up on the website as well. But we thought we'd just sort of just show you in sort of horse race style.
Okay.
And we can do it for both the city council as well as the school committee, and we'll go through that.
We haven't talked about the school
Okay, so here goes. Hopefully this works nice.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So this is just one graphic representation. I tried to tag on the numbers a little ham-handedly here, just to sort of show the relative rankings of everyone. So what you see here is there are some candidates who just did very, very well. The marked in purple means people who won. So what you have there is Denise Simmons and Sumbul Siddiqui on the very first count, just counting number one votes, going over the top.
Yep.
All right. The actual quota, I should probably tell you what the quota is for that. It's 2251. So they were in excess of that.
Wow, way excess. Look at Denise. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they did great. Okay. And then, Mark McGovern did better than people thought. Devereaux, many people felt would be topping the ticket, so she did fine, but not as well as some thought. Some people were concerned about Tim Toomey. I never was. I thought he'd finish more or less. Quentin Zondervan did better than I think many people thought. Many people thought
a lot of people behind him.
People thought he might win, but he might be like the 8th or 9th person, and it might be a battle between him and Carlone. But they both got in. Alana, I thought a lot of people, myself included, felt she would get in. I thought Kelly would do better than he did. He was right up, really
I knew he was
close to the rack there.
Yeah.
Early on, Paul Toner seemed to be kind of probable, but I could tell you from just hits to the Cambridge candidate pages that he peaked a little too soon. I wasn't, anyway, we won't go into all of these folks here, but there were a lot of candidates who I considered quality candidates who were breaking 500 or more ballots, which is a good total, but who were never destined to win. Like Okamoto, Musgrave, Savansi.
Well, she had a lot of people, Savansi,
she got a bump because of some of these endorsements and whatever.
True.
But she was really, ultimately, as far as the residence line group, she was fundamentally going to end up as the feeder.
Well, it's interesting when you look at all the people that did get, it's the connections, I think, to the community. There's a lot of issues.
No, everybody, a lot of these candidates, if you were getting up there, with 600-ish ballots and above, you had something going for you.
Oh, yeah.
It starts to drop off after that. There were some candidates who were decent people, but they never really made the connections. Maybe they will again if they run again. And, and then there's some sort of fringy people down toward the bottom as well. Okay? So let's just sort of click to the next one here.
I go here, right?
Yeah, do that little arrow. All right? And then what happens here for the next one is the way the election count goes is you count out the person who finished best was Denise Simmons. So Denise Simmons gets reduced to quota, which is 2251. And some of those ballots, I'm not really showing. You sort of have to toggle between them to see how they distributed. There are other ways of showing that, but this was sort of a quick effort.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, and then after that, you then have to take down Siddiqui to quota and distribute those ballots. Watch some of the other bars.
Are we going to the next page?
Yeah, and then some other people go up. It's actually best just to leave it in one position, otherwise it's just going to jump around.
All right.
Right?
So we're on the third count here.
So we're on the third count here. So now nobody's above quota, and then you start going to the bottom of the tally. The way we do it in Cambridge by tradition is we count out anybody who's below 50. That includes write-ins as well as Brian Sutton. So if you click it one more time, so they go away, and let's just leave it. Don't scroll down.
Okay.
Right, and just leave it like that. So then they'll get knocked off. Because there's so few ballots involved, very little to see. Nothing interesting happening yet. So let's go to the next round, right, which is the Lenke transfer. Again, nothing to see because it was just a handful of votes, really. So we'll click to, so Harry Pillai goes out, all the bars, let's just go through a few in rapid succession. You can see them rising slowly, right? But nobody else is near quota yet, right? But as you start getting, to knocking off people who have like 200 or more ballots, like so now the last person in the poll is Gwen Volmar at 295. You knock her off, and then boom, everybody goes up. Still, nobody's near quota.
Josh is still up there. That's interesting.
Josh Bergen actually did a pretty good citywide campaign, but he wasn't part of anybody's slate. There were a lot of things that are helpful, which he didn't really have.
Yeah.
So we knock off Josh, and then everybody advances a little bit more.
Oh, so look at that. Yeah, she's still staying in there. That's interesting.
Right. So now notice here that Okamoto, who honestly was a kind of a novelty candidate in many respects.
But she got her probably people to register from.
Well, we'll have to see when.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
When we see the age distribution, the geographical distribution.
And if they're first time registrants, can you tell that when you look at it?
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, you won't be able to say who they voted for, but
but we'll be able to tell how many first time registered this year.
Yeah, so we'll have a lot of, my suspicion is that you'll see a lot of people coming out of like MIT and Harvard.
That's true. You can
who will have voted for. You won't be able to infer directly who they voted for.
No, but you want to know who are the younger new registered voters.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So then we now know Musgrave is out, so we knock her off, and then what we're down to is nobody's. You'll notice at this point Mark McGovern is getting pretty close to quota. He's up at 2182.
Why is Nadu still on here?
Because she had gone ahead of Musgrave at that point.
Oh.
But they're still in the original order in number one votes. I'm not going to rearrange them.
No, that's okay.
Right?
So now I keep going.
Okamoto is last, so she gets defeated, and we transfer on to continuing candidates. And what you really start to notice is like how a lot of the women candidates will feed other women candidates. Not exclusively, but I think it's an effect.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at this one here, you see that at this point, Sam Gebru is behind Tierney, Savansi, Harding, etc.
Right. Yeah.
So at this point, it's Gebru who gets counted out. Okay? So we knock that off, and then you see what actually happens here, and I've actually annotated it a little bit.
So here you have a tie with...
This is the tie with Toner and Tierney. Right? They're both at 1149. Now, because Toner had...
Harding and Savansi, though, too, you have sort of a tie.
Yeah, but, they're close, but it doesn't matter. I don't know.
Oh, gosh. All right.
Well, we'll see if we can
go back to us, and I'll try to see what happened here. Yeah.
Right? We must have not paid our computer bill or something like that. All right? But at that point, what we have is that tie, and when we count out, as we said earlier, we defeat Tierney at that point. Toner proceeds. Then when we get beyond that, I think after so we count out Sean Tierney, and at the end of that round, it's actually Savansi who's at the end of the poll. We then count out with 1,229. Mark McGovern actually got elected on the Gebru count, I believe.
Okay, well,
right?
I can never get to there.
And then when we get to, and at that point, Harding is last in the count. So he's sort of the next to last person to be defeated.
Were we on 18? Were we on, what count were we on?
Yeah, so we try again to see over here, okay?
Were we here? The Harding transfer? Did we?
So let's go back one, right? And one more. Okay, so when Tierney was counted out, actually go back one more. All right, actually even one more, okay?
That's all right.
So it's actually at this point here when Okamoto is out. At this point, it was Gebru who was last, so it's quick ahead, right? So with the Gebru transfer, that's when Mark McGovern hits quota, so he can receive. He no longer receives ballots,
right?
And at that point, it's actually Toner and Tierney who are tied, but Toner proceeds. So we go one more.
Next one.
And you see how that kind of distributes things in a particular way.
Interesting.
You can see at this point here, I think last in the poll is then Savansi. Right? Notice how, she actually is ahead of both Gebru and Tierney, who had actually done better than her in the number one votes.
Right.
But that's where the slate voting, I think, really played a role.
Yeah.
So we defeat Savansi, and at this point, 3 new candidates actually go in. It was interesting at the count when the announcement was made. They announced the order of election.
Yeah.
The commissioners actually got it wrong.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. So they made it out that it was Devereaux was elected 4th, then Malin, then Zondervan, but it was actually the reverse. It was actually Zondervan was elected, then Malin. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You
And
get
Tim
elected
Toomey
either
moved
way.
out. Or
Right.
maybe he was always in the same spot.
But he's still not elected at this stage.
Right, so
Right?
should I go to the
And
18th
now
county
at the
then?
Harding transfer, Toomey
Right.
goes in. At
Mhm.
this point, you've elected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is we're up to 7.
Yep,
But at this point, Toner is 97 votes short of Kelly.
so he's still in the running there.
No, because
Oh.
this is the last. This is the
Oh,
one that
right,
decides
right,
it.
this is the
There's
last
10
one.
people there. He's 10th, and that's all she wrote.
Oh,
So when you
yeah.
defeat Toner,
Yeah,
it formally brings everybody to quota except the 2 for which there just wasn't
Interesting.
enough the gas to bring
Yeah.
them up to quota.
interesting.
So as you see here, both Carlone and Kelly come actually pretty substantially short of quota, but they're still elected because
You
ultimately.
don't have, reaching quota is not the goal, it's getting the
That's
most
right.
votes compared
Yeah.
to the others. Okay.
That's right. Exactly right. It's it's the series of runoffs, and it's those who are elected are fundamentally the last
Mhm.
9 people standing. You know, and I said that actually during election night. I
Yeah.
tried to emphasize that quota. Yeah, if you reach quota, you're elected. But quota is really the maximum number of ballots
That
you're
you're
allowed
allowed,
to
and
keep.
then that way allows for the transfers and all that.
So that you actually get
Yeah.
the proportionality that,
Right.
that is really the goal
Which
of the system.
and I think it always seems to work.
It does seem to
You know?
work, yeah.
I mean, people might complain about it, but it does seem to be more diverse than, you know. just-
The goal is to have and this is a topic we certainly talked about this.
Yeah.
We had this a forum on proportional
Yeah,
representation.
next year, next
Well,
election, you have to have it at least a week or 2 ahead.
Yeah, so it was at the public library. It was on
Yeah.
the evening before the
Yeah.
election. Actually, we had a pretty reasonable turnout.
I know, but I'm just saying, if people really wanna know, the night before
We'll
an
do it.
election.
We'll do it some more. It was really more of an academic
It was,
presentation.
because you had Howard there and all.
Yeah, so we had Howie Fain, who is one of the founders of
Mhm.
Fair Vote, who
Mhm.
promotes ranked choice voting across the country. I was one of the panelists.
And Glenn Kuchar.
Glenn Kuchar, as well as Susanna Sagat. And, we actually had a good time doing it, you
Yeah.
know, and talking about the way, what's the real idea behind
Mhm.
PR elections? Why do we choose to do it? How did Cambridge
Right,
come to be using it in the first place? You know, and one of the points, I don't know that I ever got a chance to mention it that night, was that when people were voting to adopt proportional representation elections back in,
Mhm.
when it was successful in 1940, it was
Mhm.
unsuccessful in 38, it was really adopting the planning charter.
right.
And the planning charter it had 2 primary features. One was the change to a city manager form of
Not a
government,
mayor, okay.
as opposed to a strong mayor, and then also the adoption of proportional representation elections.
Mhm.
In 38, the emphasis was on the election method, and it lost.
Right,
In 40, it was on the city manager, and it
and
won.
it won. So they had to
Lesson
take it
learned.
even if they didn't want it, 'cause-
Right, well, it was a package deal, but
was a
people were
package.
okay with the election
Yeah.
method, but they really felt that at that point that having a city manager form
Yeah.
of government was necessary.
Right.
The tax rate was going sky high, and it was a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't even produce a budget. So
Hmm.
that's really what won the day, and we've done proportional representation ever since.
I thought it was interesting that Howie said, or maybe you said, that the reason a lot of places, they were looking at us many years ago, but because it was still paper ballots, that they said it would just take, they didn't want to wait a week for results, which.
Part of the
is-
reason why
yeah.
we moved toward computerization.
Yeah.
Actually, let's cue up the school committee bar graphs as well.
Okay, and which one is that?
So that's just go further down.
Unofficial election
No,
results?
just go further down, right, and you'll see it. There we go. It'll be bar graph.
Here, this one.
You can do it in one of
We're showing
the
this
school
one?
committee, right?
Alright.
Yeah. Okay. But
This is school committee, okay.
yeah. So anyway, actually, let's just do that first, because
Alright.
just so the school committee always gets short shrift, and we
Yeah.
made an effort to bring on school committee
Yeah,
candidates
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's really kind of not fair that they always get
right,
the back seat. So let's give them a front
Alright.
seat for the moment here,
Alright.
okay? So this is how the counts went for school committee. It was a lot simpler because there were 12 candidates
Yeah.
rather than 26.
Mhm.
Patty Nolan once again topped the ticket and won on the first count based
That's
on number
amazing,
one.
look at all those votes.
Number 1 votes
Whoa.
alone. And we'll see what the quota is in a moment here.
Yeah,
So we bring her down to quota. So if
Mhm.
so that was 2957,
mhm.
right? It's really 1/7 of the ballots rather than 1/10. That's why quota is a larger number
Right,
for a
because
school
it's-
committee.
depends
You're
on-
electing
on
6 people, not 9.
how many people sit
Yeah.
on the board. Okay, do you want me to go
Right.
down and get another one?
Yeah, and at this point, then you see Monica Bowman is actually pretty close, but not quite
go
there.
back.
No, well, this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So when you take the Nolan surplus, so she's now down to quota.
Yeah,
Now now there's nobody under 50, but we do have some write-ins. So the next one will just transfer the write-ins, right? And again, nobody's reached quota just yet. So we'll click one more. Peter Mitros had been the person who getting counted out in this one here. Now at this point, Monica Bowman is very close, like 2
Yeah.
votes shy of quota, so
Right.
she's guaranteed to win on the next one. So
Yeah.
we defeat Will MacArthur, in goes Monica.
yeah,
At this point, the last in the poll is David Weinstein. So when we defeat David Weinstein, we still only have 2 people elected, but we're now down to, what do we have? About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candidates on our way to 6. Alechi Cadete is last at this point, so we defeat him. And at that point, we now have 4 people elected, and 4 more to go. So we're down to 8. But at this point, Jake Crutchfield is well behind. We transfer those votes. At this point, we're down to 7. And that really settles it, because at that point, Fran Cronin is last in the poll. And so her votes then transfer. And in this case, all candidates actually do come up to quota.
they did come up to, okay, so
it's
based on Fran's, well, who knows?
well, in the end,
Yeah.
because there was not enough,
Right.
the ballots were not being
Let me just
exhausted.
go back and see
There were
where they.
plenty of live ballots here.
Okay.
An interesting thing about this, and something I think I
Yeah.
do want to speak to a little bit here, is Lawrence Kimbrough
Yeah.
is the 6th person elected on the school committee. And in some respects, I think you have to interpret that as basically Richard Harding's seat basically get transferred
Yeah.
to another African American candidate in the
Well,
in
you
the
had
person of
Alechi,
Lawrence Kimbrough.
But
Well, right. So the thing is,
different
but
yeah.
who is the stronger candidate?
Right.
So in this
Yeah,
case,
yeah, I
it
think
turns
you're
out
right.
definitely to be
Yep.
Lawrence Kimbrough.
Yep.
One of the interesting things I'm going to tell you, this is information that
Yeah.
most people, nobody else but me gets to see,
Yeah.
is that because I maintain the Cambridge candidate pages.
Yes.
One really curious thing, I was wondering what is going on here when I was looking who is getting the most hits,
Oh, right.
and I can see
That's
that.
true. That gives you a
And I
lot
said,
of
why is Lawrence Kimbrough actually getting more hits than anybody?
people want to know about him.
Well, not just that, is that I think he might have been the only candidate, I believe, who didn't
Yeah.
have his own website. So the candidate page
Oh.
became his website.
Interesting.
And people were going to that and they were saying,
Trying to
we
get-
like
okay.
this guy. He
All
makes a
right.
good statement. So,
Interesting.
I feel like
Yeah.
this actually helped the candidate
Yeah.
actually get elected.
Yeah,
So,
good.
so I feel
Interesting.
a little touch
Yeah.
of pride in that.
Well, you
actually.
should. You can't. So that site we talked about that was mentioned, that newer, the Cambridge.vote.
Yeah.
I went finally to it to try to navigate it, and it looked like your kind of candidate pages, but
Yeah.
was it from you? It was the same
No,
photos.
no. No, I don't know. I think
But then underneath they had like
asked me-
Facebook, Twitter.
They asked me, can we use photos?
Oh,
so
so you-
I don't know if they took photos from me.
I think they did.
But
They
I
looked the
always
same.
say you can feel free to take them.
Okay.
The Harvard Crimson used all my photos
Yeah,
as well.
it almost looked like your pages except for the.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The one, and I'm glad
had their
of
websites
people are
underneath.
trying to do
Yeah.
this here. But you go to candidate pages, you see the websites as well.
Yeah.
There was I think a little bit of an unhealthy focus on the campaign finance. I have a separate page where if you want to find out about campaign finance, you can look it all up. But to me, putting a candidate's name, website, and how much money they raise.
Wait, where was that? On some other
the
place?
Cambridge Votes one.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
kidding! I didn't see that.
I think that
yours
was.
yours is more thorough, and you can really see it.
And on the candidate
didn't
page,
see
I don't
that,
put
yeah.
the finance information on the page itself because
No, that
that's
shouldn't be there.
It's an interesting piece of information,
But it's separate
but
from
it's,
the
it
candidate.
has to be separate.
Yeah, and they didn't do that.
I think that there was some effort,
Yeah, to
'cause
try to
as people are sort of
say,
trying to
"Hey,
do
look
these
what's- yeah."
knockoffs, they're trying to emphasize
Yeah.
certain things. So there was this narrative that was running through from Residents
They
Alliance,
were,
the Revolution
yeah,
people,
I know.
basically making it out as though everybody was on the take.
Yeah.
And I want to put the information out about campaign finance so everybody can access if they're interested. But
Yeah.
to make it out as though that is like the
That's
primary thing
right,
is
an
just
issue you should
not.
vote on or
That
something.
is
Yeah.
so misleading.
Well, it didn't pan out with the results, if you ask me. I mean, it
No,
just,
honestly, the
nothing to do
correlation
with it,
between, I mean, there were some people who spent a tremendous amount of money who
Yeah.
were not elected.
yeah.
And then,
Well, people
actually,
and then were elected, so, I
yeah,
mean,
and actually, one of the most interesting things for me is
Yeah.
that right now, we'll see, because all expenses are still coming in.
right,
But, you know, there was some candidates spent $70 per number one vote, ultimately.
yeah,
I mean, it's not like you're buying the votes, but if
That-
you
if
take
you-
your total
yeah.
expense divided by the number one
Right.
votes as a measure of how successful you were,
yeah,
candidates who were getting 50 votes, $50 per vote, etc. There was a lot who were in the 20s.
yeah.
The successful candidates,
Jan
only one
Dever, I
broke
think, was
30,
20. Yeah,
right? Sumbul Siddiqui, $9.75.
I know.
So
Well,
my hat is off to you, Phil.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'll tell
yeah,
you, that was
yeah.
that was a nice piece of work.
It was. No,
Yeah.
she
You know,
has her network.
On the
She
school
knew-
committee side, it was always Freddie Fantini that
Yeah, I
always
didn't
did the
look at
best.
those
On the city
expenses.
council
Yeah.
side, it's always been Craig. Well, he got away with like $13 a pop,
Yeah, but
which is really great.
it
you know,
is, and
but-
he's always sort of just managed to.
Well, he's sort of been in the middle of the pack a few times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's got a yeah.
Yeah, well, he wasn't on anybody's slate. you
Well,
know,
neither
and-
was Tim
and-
Toomey,
and-
right.
Right, and slate politics
Yep.
are becoming a thing.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad is something
Mm-hmm.
that's a much broader discussion.
Right.
People who love to talk about ranked choice voting and proportional representation really they're enamored of the fact that there seems to be
Yeah.
a return to slates. But you know, there's something like who gets to be the kingmaker.
Yeah.
You know, that there's something a little unsavory
Right,
about
but
this.
but if somebody wants a candidate that's like their number one, they might look to that kind of
Yeah.
endorsement. So I don't I
well,
kind
maybe
of
there'll
understand
be
it,
multiple slates, overlapping
but
slates
if
in
they
the
looked
future.
at how I voted, I was all over the place.
Well,
I
same
didn't-
here too.
yeah, so,
you know, I mean, I didn't
I don't go
pay
by
attention
that.
to the
Yeah,
slates
right.
really, and I always encourage people don't pay attention
Right.
to the
Just
slates.
do
I think it's
look at
incredibly
other
misleading.
factors, which I did.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
so anyway, so those are the people who apparently won. The school committee results cannot possibly change based on the handful
Was
of votes
there-
this Friday.
Was there a recount on the, not a recount, but did they do auxiliary ballots?
Oh yeah, everything. Yeah.
Okay, and that nothing
Okay.
changed though
Now,
in terms of order on
in
Wednesday?
the order of 15 ballots that they're going to
Oh, those, yeah.
include on Wednesday, and then run the count through the computer one last time
You mean Friday?
on Friday.
Yeah.
So when they do that in a few days, nothing's going to change in the election for school committee.
Yeah.
We're still not 100% sure on
Right.
the city
And,
council.
and when, and that's done at the election commission,
It's
and
going to
you're
be
gonna
done.
be there?
I'll be there, and then I'll get
Do you know
access.
about what time they start doing?
They're going to start the provisional ballots at 4 o'clock Friday. They're going
Oh,
to do the
not till 4,
yeah.
even
And
though the city closes at 12?
they're anticipating taking care of the overseas absentee ballots, which my understanding is just one.
Yeah.
But hey, that could maybe I think they could still come trickling in.
Huh.
But so far there's one. So those ballots, when they get adjudicated, then in principle they just basically data entry, just edit the ballot file, and then they run the count one more time. 2 people run it independently. They compare results and they announce
Why
the
do they
results.
do it at 4 o'clock? I'm curious. On Friday.
Part of it is because it's the 10-day rule and it's the end of the day, and
Oh, all right.
I think
Yeah.
they allow for if basically if it's not in by a certain deadline, then that's that. But it's just what they've done ever since Help Promote America Vote Act mandated the 10-day lag there.
Well, I guess some of those people have other jobs too. They're not. It's not a full-time
Yeah,
position.
yeah. So I'm sure there'll be candidates or representatives of the candidates of those who are potentially in the
Yeah.
in
little group there.
the risky slice there. The candidates who are in like Flint, or the candidates who are easily defeated,
It's
there's
no
no
interest, yeah.
purpose really in showing up for that. Then I'll get the ballot data. I'll be able to determine
Will you know by that night? Will you post it?
Yep.
For those of us that aren't
Yep.
going to go to the
Yeah, and then there's I won't be the only one because
Yeah.
I'll post the detailed information.
Cambridge Day or whatever.
But others will put who the winners are and do a
Right.
quick narrative of it,
Yeah.
and in this sort of silly little race to be the first business, we'll do
Well,
that. But the
you
thing
don't
is,
do Twitter. Well, you do Twitter.
yeah,
actually,
but I'm not going to bother.
No, I know, but some people do.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get ballot data, and as quick as I can turn it around, I'll get ward and precinct data out there for people.
Oh, in terms.
Yeah,
after
and
this.
and then I'm going to run some experiments to sort of,
Like
depending on
age
how it.
and gender.
We'll
whatever.
see how just in case there's no turnaround. I'll have to do some analysis so to see whether a recount is even in any way sensible, right?
Wow.
Because candidates are asking, should I or shouldn't I? And I want to make sure they get good information.
I'm going to ask a really naive, stupid question, but if there is a recount, how do they determine, how is that transfer vote the same?
It's done by hand, and basically all the computer does is it mimics what you would have done by hand in the old days. So that you'll just actually have the paper ballots, and you will transfer them physically and do exactly the same thing that the
But in
computer
terms
does.
of the lottery, where it comes
You'll-
from, that
you'll-
every 10th one and all
for
that stuff.
example,
Okay,
Siddiqui
so
is- I
theoretically it
believe-
should be the same.
I believe Siddiqui, I didn't do
Yeah.
the integer for Simmons, but Siddiqui it's every 9th ballot. So
Okay.
they'll go, 1, 10, like this, and they'll basically pull them. That could be a different draw depending on
That's what I'm
if
saying.
if
Wouldn't that
Siddiqui, for
make a
example, got
difference
an
then?
extra ballot on Friday, that might shift everything up one, in which case it throws a lot of
Oh,
uncertainty in.
but, okay, but that's the Friday.
It could be,
all right.
it could be
No,
interesting.
I just think in general, I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure how
Yeah.
we can mimic the original.
So that's why, I mean, I would love if we could just say definitively, these are the
Yeah.
9 people elected,
Yeah.
and I think we sort of
You
know,
could probably
but
say these are the 8 people.
we certainly know about the 8. The
Yeah.
question is,
Yeah,
is
the ninth,
does Kelly or Tierney
Mm.
pick up the 9th seat? Right now, it appears to be Kelly.
Yeah,
both-
it's definitely, it's one of those two,
and they-
not Toner, okay.
That's right. Paul's not going to really. There's just no scenario where
Yeah.
you can do that I can think of that you could get in,
Hmm.
or any of the other intervening candidates like Sivansi or Harding. So
Yeah, right.
it's a bit uncertain,
Oh,
right?
boy.
And then we'll know, and maybe there'll be a recount, maybe there won't.
So
and we'll see
now,
how it plays
I think
out.
I told you, I'll tell the audience here, 2 or 3, that I won't be here next week. I
Right.
think I told you that.
Yep.
So you'll either
We'll
carry
figure something
on, or
out.
you'll have somebody maybe that wants to talk about
I'll-
who got in and
I'll-
everything. I'm
I'll
sure you can
draft
find
somebody.
someone.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, this is
Yeah.
like everybody gets all revved up for election.
Absolutely.
Honestly, the number of hits for the Cambridge Civic Journal
Oh.
we had over 11,000 unique visits to the candidate pages on election day, and out of
Amazing.
22,000 people voting. So, do I feel good
Yeah.
about that?
Yes, you
bet I
should.
feel good about
You
that.
do a great
That's the way we do
service.
campaign finance reform right there. So, all right,
Thank
next
you.
week.
All right,
See ya.
bye-bye.